March is Women's History Month, and the HBCU podcast is celebrating with the Phenomenal Woman series. The series features episodes dedicated to highlighting women who have made great strides in their respective career fields to achieve great success. On this episode, we speak with Selina Kohn. She's a graduate of Albany State University. She made history as the first woman to serve as Director of Athletics at Paine College. Selina has a storied career in athletics as an athlete, coach, and athletic administrator. During this episode, we talk about her successful career, her invitation to try out for the Olympic women's basketball team, and her encounter with the legendary Pat Summitt. Keep listening. It's the HBCU podcast.
My name is Selina Kohn, and I'm currently the Director of Athletics at Paine College. I'm a proud graduate of Albany State University, class of 1994.
Thank you for being here for Women's History Month.
Thank you for having me.
So we're just going to hop right into it so we can get to know exactly who you are. I've known you for a little while because you and I used to work together at Paine College, and I'm just so used to calling you Coach Kohn all the time.
Everyone still calls me Coach Kohn. I wear that title with pride.
So tell me about you growing up, specifically, what was young Selina like? How were you as a youth?
Well, I have to say that growing up in Thomasville, Georgia was the best. I think I had it really good because my mom had a large family. It was 15 of them, so it was 10 boys and 5 girls. Oh, wow. So I had a lot of mommy aunties and a lot of daddy uncles. So I got to see and do a lot of things with their help and with their guidance. So growing up, athletics, sports was big because that's a lot of my mother's brothers and sisters did a lot of sports. And my father was an athlete as well.
So where do you fall on how many siblings? Which are you?
Well, I'm the first and only girl. It's just my brother and I.
Okay. Nice. So how did you end up at Albany State? Because I'm not super familiar with Thomasville. Are they in the same area?
Well, Albany is about an hour from Thomasville. And one thing about Thomasville is a sports city. Football is very big, as well as basketball, so it's kind of football country because when I was growing up, I grew up with football where I had some of my people I went to school with played at Florida State, played at Georgia Tech, University of Georgia, national championship. So sports was big in Thomasville because that was just what the community really embraced, and it was something that really helped motivate you and kind of teach you about multitasking. Mm-hmm. So I kind of ended up at Albany State, which is interesting because I was recruited quite a bit. And it wasn't until I hurt my hand in a game, my own teammate stepped on my hand, so I ended up crushing the bones in my pinky finger.
Oh, wow.
And so as I was going through, the doctor was telling me, you'll probably never play basketball ever again. I was like, that will be a no. Mom, Dad, I need a cast, something here. So we shopped around. Anyway, I was able to get a cast. And it was the couple of HBCUs that still stood by me as I finished my high school career in basketball. And Albany State in particular. I remember the coach coming, making the home visit, and just really giving me good information about what Albany State had to offer. Mm-hmm. And another good thing about Albany State is that both my parents graduated from Albany State.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. How many people did you know who actually, attended?
Well, my mom's sisters all went to Albany State.
Nice.
Of course, my parents met and married at Albany State. My brother and I are both Albany State graduates.
Okay, so it's a whole family legacy.
Yes.
I usually ask that question and just curious, and nobody's like, no, I just kind of ended up there. And you are like one of the people who everybody went to Albany State, kept it all in the family. Love that. Was the fact that Albany State was an HBCU, did that even matter to you, or did that factor in anyway?
Well, in the beginning, when I was looking for a college to attend, it was more about the academics because that's pretty much what my parents stressed. Mm-hmm. Athletics was kind of secondary. And so I think as Albany State in particular, as they recruited me, it became evident that maybe this is a good fit for me to attend this historically black institution that, for examples, I have two outstanding parents, so
Right.
it has to be a good place. But I think what I got from Albany State more than anything was a chance to continue our family legacy, empowerment. I think that the faculty was really good, and faculty and staff, they showed a lot of support academically and athletically. So I think all of those components just really made my experience at Albany State fantastic.
Now, while you were there, I mean, you weren't just a student, you were like a star athlete. You hold like a bunch of records, and tell me if they're still standing.
The only record that, there are two records that's still holding now. One of those is the career.
Okay.
At that time when I graduated, I did have the 5, but it's so funny how I got into the position because I wasn't a point guard. My sophomore year going into play, we didn't have a point guard, so I wanted to play. So I was like, okay, so I'll try it. I'll do whatever.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be a blessing, not just statistical for me, but just for the team in general. I mean, we started to really have fun. And what people don't realize, in having an assist record, you have to have people that can score. So I was lucky to have a team that knew how to score, and, my job was to help them create their shot. So it was a win-win.
Nice. Now, was that your position that you played in high school?
No, it was not. I was more of a, at that time we would call it a 3 guard. In other words, more like a, small forward, jump shots, putting the ball on the floor, getting to the paint. Ball handling was just something that I had to learn. I just remember my mom was like, listen, honey, if you're going to play basketball, you're going to have to learn how to dribble. I don't care what position you play. So she would always make me tie up my right hand and make my brother just attack me in the yard to make sure that I could be strong, not only in my right hand, but also in my left hand.
So your mom, you said she was an athlete as well, or just your dad?
Well, my mom was an athlete. She didn't play sports in college. My dad did. My dad played basketball at Albany State. My mom majored in nursing, so she spent quite a bit of time, of course, clinicals and that sort of thing. But my dad did play collegiate basketball.
So you're still holding down a few of the records. Again, like I said, you were a star athlete at Albany State. But when did you realize, like, you were good?
It took a long time for that. Now, this is probably bizarre. It really wasn't until we were moving into our house that my son was picking up boxes of trophies, and he's like, Mom, are these all yours? And I was like, yes. And he's like, so where's Dad's? They're in here too. And so he started to read some of the things and some of the accomplishments, and I was like, wow, okay, yeah, that did happen.
Right. You look back on it.
Yes. And so it wasn't until my son started to say that it really hit, like there were quite a bit of accomplishments. But I think the things that I took away were the things that we learned about friendship, about family, about being on a team, and those things that you learn, and how that really still reflects in my life today.
So what are some of your favorite memories from Albany State? Because, like, now that you've told me a little bit more information, I'm curious to know. You got a family legacy of, folks who went to Albany State, alumni. You're doing really well playing basketball. I'm pretty sure they were involved and at the games and cheering you on. But what are some of your favorite memories?
I think game day was always the day. It was just something about the atmosphere on campus that everyone knew it was a game. And so you kind of had that extra adrenaline that, led up to the game. I mean, you still had to go to class. You still had to do all the things that were required of a regular day. But it was just something about that little extra pep in your step as you're going and you're preparing, because you knew come game time, the fans were going to be there to support you. And I think one of the other things that was really good about Albany State was that other sports supported other sports.
Okay.
I know sometimes when you go to certain schools, you kind of have everybody's kind of on their own little island, even though they're part of the athletic program. But I think that was one of the big things that the football team always had their space in the gym during basketball, and then you had track, and then you had the volleyball team, and it was just something about that feeling that you had your support from your teammates.
Now, Albany State, like who were your rivals?
It seemed like everyone was our rival, but Fort Valley in particular.
Okay.
That was always a big game, and I think my dad always said even when he played Fort Valley, the rival game was such a big game. But pretty much any conference school for us was a big game.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that was interesting about my career as a player at Albany State, I had 3 different coaches, and never at any point in the change of coaches did it change my mind about maybe I should leave this, there's a lot of change going on.
Yeah.
But I had 3 good coaches. The coach that recruited me, I had him for a year, and then after that, my sophomore year, I got another coach. And my last 2 years, my coach came in and did a really, really good job. All 3 had 3 totally different styles, but were still effective.
Yeah. That says a lot about you. You were able to, adapt well to change, different people, but still able to, get the job done. So during your career with the Lady Rams, you guys snagged an SIAC conference title. You were named ESPN's Black College Female Player. I'm looking up all this stuff I found on you. And Albany State's Woman of the Year. And the last thing I saw that was interesting, I definitely wanted to ask you about, is you were invited to try out for the Olympic women's basketball team. Tell me about that.
Well, yes, that was in Colorado Springs. And I remember when Coach Skinner was telling me about it, and I was looking at him like, okay, now, I've had a lot of jokes, but this has got to be one. He's, no, seriously, look at the letter. Look at And so it was a really good experience just to be invited.
Yeah.
Was an outstanding honor. I mean, the tryout that led up until that team, that 1996 team that really helped launch the WNBA. And I think once I got there, my mom went with me. Once I got there, just to be in the atmosphere of talented basketball players from across the country that were trying to pull together to come and represent our country. Phenomenal. I actually still have my tryout jersey.
Nice.
Yes.
Now, what Olympics would this one have been? Like, what's the place, I guess, because I can never keep up.
That would have led up into the 1996 1995-96 season, and that team had some talent. I mean, you're talking about Lisa Leslie was part of that, Teresa Edwards, Cheryl Swoosh, Rebecca Lobo. I mean, you're talking about true talent, and just to be amongst that type of talent was just outstanding.
Yeah, that's huge. Of course, like you said, it was great to be invited, but did you make any new friends? Did you, kind of build some friendships with some of the folks that were there?
Well, I did build some friendships. It was 2 young ladies that we were both kind of like, all right, we got to calm down. We got to get through the tryouts. So, as a matter of fact, we both, all 3 of us did make it through the second phase of the tryouts. But I think one of the things that I think I took away from it personally was when you're always trying to do your best at whatever it is, you never know what other opportunity or what other door you can be opening up for your career.
Yeah.
So I think when you always strive every day to try to do your best, other great opportunities like that one will come. And it was just like, wow, okay, so I felt good about that accomplishment, that, to be chosen just to be a part of the tryout.
Yeah, congratulations. I mean, I know that was some time ago, but that's very major. Now, speaking of which, you talked about your coaches. You've gone through 3 at the time while you were at Albany State. Are they some individuals that you still keep in contact with, as well as your teammates today?
Absolutely. One of my teammates was actually in my wedding.
Okay.
But my coach, I still keep in contact with. He was really instrumental in pushing me into the athletic field. I started off when I graduated, I wanted to be a pediatrician. That was why I majored in biology.
Okay.
And so I had my heart kind of set on that. And that summer, I went home and started, just working at the local hospital, just getting experience, because, the more experience you have, the better,
Right.
it is when you go into medical school. And so my mom lost her mother in that December, so I didn't go off to school right away. And so I just continued to work, and then my coach called and said, "Hey, Selina, I know you're not far from me. I need a little help. Would you?" And I was like, "You want me to do what?" And he was like, "Come, assistant coach.
Right.
You can work on your master. You can, he was just giving me all my options." So I was like, "I don't know about this." But anyway, I went. And I got the opportunity to be his assistant coach for 3 years. Mm-hmm. In those 3 years, we won 2 SIAC championships.
Nice.
And so then from him, I got the push to take the position at Paine, which is kind of ironic because he came from Paine.
From Paine to Albany State.
Right.
Okay.
So it's almost like in a few years we traded places.
Uh-huh.
And so I was relatively young when I took the position at Paine, but I was glad I did. Mm-hmm. I was glad. Sometimes when you think you know what your path will be, and it's amazing how sometimes, God has a different path for you, and
Absolutely.
Sometimes you just have to just kind of step out on faith, and that's what I did.
So that goes back to you and keeping relationships and talking about opportunities, and you never just know what's going to come from them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what do you enjoy most about being in athletics, having had a long career thus far, been a coach, you've been a player, you've been an administrator for athletics, and now you're an athletic director. What do you enjoy most about just this career path?
I think what I enjoy most about this career path is the opportunity to touch other athletes. Mm-hmm. When I was coaching, it was good because, I had a little bit personal relationship and hands-on with athletes. And I remember being a part of the Women's Coaching Academy, and I remember asking one of the administrators, what is that group over there? What do they do? They was like, "Oh, those are the administrators for athletics." And I remember saying, "So if I could get over there, I could help more people get in here."
Uh-huh.
And she said, "Yeah, exactly."
That's the moment you connected the dots.
Yes. And so eventually I got over there,
Mm-hmm.
and took the position as far as doing some administrative work. And that just kind of just broadened the whole horizon, because now I was able to impact not just student athletes, but coaches, really getting people to see what athletics brings to an institution. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was kind of my aha moment, okay, I really think I know what I want to do, and that's be effective in athletic administration.
And being an athletic director, what does your day-to-day really look like? What kind of things do you do on a daily basis that people probably don't know about?
Well, my day generally starts about 6 a.m.
That's early.
So in those first few moments of the day, I just kind of center myself before I start my day. And of course, I have, I call them my game changers. I have three boys. And so my day starts preparing them for, like today would have been school, breakfast, lunches, making sure everybody has everything, dropping off to school, coming to work, pretty much dealing in preparation if it's a game, dealing with the preparation of that, just planning. And then in the evening, sometimes, I'm at their games, planning for with what I have to do with my job. But I try to, whenever I'm with them, try to give them my full attention, because that kind of gets into that, how do you balance between having a family, being a wife, and a career in athletics? Because sometimes you can get caught where you could work 7 days a week. And long days and long hours. But I think because of the profession that I chose, I'm able to include my family. Mm-hmm. So having boys, and they love sports.
That's
so
a good
coming
thing.
to work with mommy is like the thing.
Right. Anytime they're like, sure.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to a baseball game? Oh, yeah. Sure. Who's playing? Oh, we got 2 games? No.
And so they don't mind hanging out.
No.
Great. So, one of the other things that I would love to know, because it sounds like you've got this whole thing kind of nailed down on how to, be a mom, be an athletic director, and all of that. What challenges have you faced career-wise, and how did you overcome those hurdles? And that can be in work or in life in general. I'm always interested to know that type of thing, especially from athletes, because you guys have such, I think, a different drive, and it's a little bit different from the normal person. So I'm always curious to know these kind of things.
I think one of the things that helps us in our profession is we don't sweat the small things. I mean, we just kind of embrace what we have while we have it. I think for me early on, when I took the position as director of athletics, was, okay, so now I'm responsible for everyone. And so I think once I settled myself down, I was able to realize, okay, you can manage this. And I think one of the things that has helped me with my career is, as I said before, is including my family. So my kids are somewhat engaged with my job. It's always interesting because at some games, my oldest would come and work the concession stand. So people were like, "Hey, where's your son?" I was like, he had a game today, so he couldn't be with me today. So I think one of the challenges that I thought was a challenge was trying to figure out, do I keep the career separate and the family over here? And I think once I realized that it could be all inclusive, because technically athletics is my family, the athletes and the coaches, so it's just a blended family.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit about you and, more about career. How would you, I guess, usher in young talent who are looking for a career space in athletics, but what is the path that you would probably encourage them to take to get there? Does it even start with a major in something specific?
Well, I think the first thing is, at whatever point you realize that you want that career in athletics, I think at that point you have to find a way to be around it so that you can clearly understand it and understand what's involved. I think you don't necessarily have to be a student athlete to be engaged with athletics.
Okay, that was my next question. Like, should you have played a sport?
Some of the best coaches were not decorated athletes.
Okay.
So I think you just have to figure out what it is you want to do, be around it, find ways that you can better explore. There's so many things that colleges and the NCAA and different organizations have done to try to help you gain the knowledge that you need to really figure out, is this what I really want to do? Because there's so many avenues in athletics. There's the ticket sales, there's the operation of it, there's outside of just the coaching itself. Those people don't necessarily see, but they really kind of hold things together.
Yeah, like people who do statistics and
absolutely
all that good stuff.
Absolutely. The promotions at the game, the person that's pushing on social media to make sure that the institution as well as individuals get their highlights. I mean, all those things are what makes athletics go.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit, because it's Women's History Month, I always like to ask the guests that have been on during this month a little bit about, women in careers, especially in their particular field. And I recently read an article, I think I shared this with you as well, and it was in the NCAA's Champions magazine, I want to say it was. But it said that in 1972, women coached more than 90% of collegiate women's sports, and today women coach fewer than half. And so why do you think the percentage of women coaches in collegiate sports has dwindled?
I think when we talk about that, what you're talking about in 1972, when the majority of the coaches were women, and I think that group of women made those positions very attractive because they were really putting in the time and they were really developing women athletes. Mm-hmm. So these started to be attractive jobs for men all of a sudden. Uh-huh. And for whatever reason in that transition, over the years and decades, women start to get fewer jobs in those professions. But I think what we have to do now is just really continue to expose our women to these types of positions and role models, because the more that we see our women in these roles, especially in the realm of sports, I think we're becoming more respected as the leaders, the game changers. Yeah. And I think women now have decided that, we can have both. Mm-hmm. Where at one time it was like, I don't know, maybe I should have my family here, right. Or I should just do this, the paperwork. Now we're saying, no, we want it all. And we want to be treated fairly. We want fair salaries. Mm-hmm. We want to be able to have our program look just as good as the men's program. But I think at that point, women were doing things and it was almost like, well, they're doing it well and having success. And so, in my opinion, I think those jobs started to be very attractive to our male counterparts.
Do women athletes who have female coaches, do you think there's a difference in it in performance or? Well,
I think for me, in the years that I've been a head coach, I think I've been pretty good for my athletes. Mm-hmm. They seem to embrace the thought. And it's always interesting when I see some of the former players, the things that they say that they gained, that it wasn't so much the wins and losses.
Right.
It was more about the fact that, Coach, you outworked us. So they saw what hard work was, and they saw some of the sacrifices that were being made to make sure that they could have the best career that they could have. Mm-hmm. So I think the athletes that I've been able to influence, I think they embrace the fact that they had a female coach. Okay. And I think in some instances, having a female coach, we were able to get a little bit more out of them, because for them it was, you've experienced where I'm trying to go and what I'm trying to do. So seeing me in that role has helped. And it's interesting that several of my former athletes are coaches. Some more so in high school, and some do some of the AAU coaching. But to see them in that role that I probably would have never thought would have influenced them to want to be coaches themselves has been something good.
So again, still talking about some of the statistics out there. The Women's Sports Foundation study revealed many female coaches perceive gender bias in their career advancement, among other areas. Is that something that you have maybe even witnessed, experienced, or even discussed with your colleagues over the long time that you've been in athletics?
Well, it's definitely a discussion that goes on. I think years ago, even the NCAA has tried to embrace, as well as other programs, about how do we create good opportunities for women and minorities? And I think trying to be able to have programs for them has been helpful. And I think one of the things I think when you're looking at coaches or even just women in administration, I think you should look for people that can deliver results and provide guidance both, on and off the court. And I think that should include someone that's a good role model. And if that's a woman, then that's the person for you.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Mentorship, as you spoke about the athletes that you've coached and how they've ended up in careers in coaching, how important is it for you to be a mentor to young women, as well as making them privy to, different networking opportunities?
Well, I think having a mentor is very important. And I think sometimes the people that we don't think about as mentors as we grow up, for example, your English teacher, your music teacher, all those people that have helped you on your path along the way have mentored you in some kind of way. And so I think you take those relationships and you try to build upon them. But I was lucky to have really good mentors. Even through my career at Paine, I had good supervisors. They pushed me even when I was uncomfortable of being pushed, because they saw something that I may have not necessarily saw. And so they put me in situations where I had to, make tough decisions.
Right.
So I thought that helped me. So when it came time to really have to make a tough decision, whether it dealt with hiring or firing or, trying to, revamp a situation, I think I was prepared because I had those good mentors in my life to kind of help me make those decisions, and putting me in those decision-making roles when I wasn't even thinking about being in those roles.
Right.
So I think it was very beneficial for me.
Now, working in administration and being the director of athletics, how important is it to create like a pipeline? I don't know what kind of programs that are out there that are, kind of funneling young coaches or young women who are interested in athletics, but how important is that? And then what do you know that is available for women who are looking to have, that transition?
Well, I think it's very important that as you move up, you pull someone else up. Or as many people as possible that you can help. I think that's so important because the more people we help and more people we embrace, the better things are for us, not only in our situation, but for other situations. I think that early on, because I always consider my mom to be the ultimate mentor. I mean, I watched her juggle things from maintaining a household, raising 2 kids, being a wife, all those things. And early on, I realized watching her, I can do this. I mean, my mom did it, so, I felt like I could do it. And so I think she kind of pushed me to be able to say, hey, whatever you do and whatever success you have, you always elevate other people around you. And it's not for personal gain that you elevate. It's because you never know who can help or elevate your career. And so programs out there that was helpful for me, at the time it was called NACWA. Now they have actually changed the name of the organization. It's actually Women Leaders in College Sports.
Okay.
Phenomenal organization. I went through several of their leadership programs. The last one I did was the Executive Leadership Summit. And basically what I liked about that summit, it wasn't just women in athletics. It was just women in positions that could help influence other positions for other women.
Gotcha.
And so their programs that they have are really good. There's programs that the NCAA provide between coaching academies, between leadership. One of the other institutes that I attended was the NCAA Leadership Institute for Ethnic Minority Males and Females. I always remember our name that we had for our group was Fearless. And so we actually have a little chat. We still keep in touch
with each other.
With each other, and that's almost 8 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And so those programs have been good, and because we get to encourage each other when someone has a position or a title change, has been elevated. So that program as well has been very beneficial. So there's quite a few programs, but I think immediate programs are just simply reaching out a hand to anyone that you can help to elevate.
Nice. Yeah, we'll leave in the show notes some of the institutions and some of the programs that you mentioned, because we want people to be able to get this kind of information. Also, I wanted to ask you again, because this is Women's History Month and all month long we've been celebrating, who do you admire most and why? And it doesn't have to be one person, and it can be someone who's in athletics or someone who isn't. Some women who have really kind of, I guess, influenced you or you've always looked up to.
Well, outside of my mom, I have great aunts. I think I'm everybody's child when it comes to my mom's family. So I've been lucky to have a really close-knit family. But one of my all-time idols was the late Pat Summitt. I was a true Pat Summitt fan, and I did have the opportunity to meet her. And it was ironic how it happened. I was in the airport going to one of the Final Fours, and she was in the airport. And I was like, Mom, do I go up to her? Do I say what I do? And so finally I went up and introduced myself and everything. And she was just so down to earth to have won all these national championships, to just be a public figure. And she was just as human as could be. And so I just remember asking her, I'm just kind of starting off in my career in coaching. What would be some of the best advice that you could give me? And she was like, well, the best advice I can give you is you got to recruit players that emulate your goal. And so I really took that to heart. And so that's what I did. I had to go out and recruit players that would reflect what I was trying to bring and what I was trying to set for the program. And so for me, she was always just watching her on TV, what she did, what she's done for women's basketball is just phenomenal. And there are just so many people that have really just touched my life. I've been at places and conventions. I remember when I was pregnant with my youngest son, and I went up to a women's volleyball Final Four. And it was ironic how I met a couple of my friends now just because they were just trying to help. Like, why are you walking this way? Almost like they just embraced me because, I guess they thought I would need a little extra help because, I was pregnant with my son. And again, those relationships I still have.
Nice.
And so I think when you said you have to just seize your opportunities, sometimes it is just being somewhere and introducing yourselves. And sometimes those follow back ups, like just wanted to send you an email, just such a pleasure to meet you at, those things, believe it or not, mean a lot to people when they just get that little simple line of thank you, just hello.
Yeah.
And then I think those are opportunities that can lead to really good relationships.
Career advice from the late, great Pat Summitt. That's awesome.
Yes.
What practical tips would you give for young women who want to follow in your footsteps?
Well, I think one of the things is, and this would be even if there were someone that wanted to have a career outside of athletics, I think every day you should challenge yourself to leave your job knowing that your workplace is much better than when you arrived that morning. So if you set out to, as my middle son would say, every day is the best day ever, then I think you'll make your mark.
So where can we find out more information about Coach Selina Kohn, Director of Athletics Selina Kohn? Where can we find out more information about you?
Well, if you could visit our website, paineathletics.com, or you can follow us on social media at Paine Athletics. And some of the upcoming things that you'll see as we're preparing for our annual athletic banquet. We're also about to launch our golf tournament, which is a big fundraiser for our department. And also we have graduation coming up in May. And so we're excited about that because one of the things that we are so excited about is the fact that our graduation rate amongst our student athletes is on the rise.
Nice. Now, one thing I did see, because I was over there on the website, you guys just did a rebrand.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that and how, of course, you were at the helm of it.
Yes. At that time, we did get a new president, Dr. Jerry Hardy. And so there was a few ideas that I came to him with, and he totally embraced. He thought the rebranding was an excellent idea. And so we got the opportunity, the department, to really put our heads together to come up with a new branding that we thought would just represent who we truly are. And more so in the logo, you kind of have a little bit more definition of the lion. And the reason for that was to let people know that we're still here. We're still kicking, and that our athletic program is on the rise. And so when we did that, we decided to take it a step further and redo our website. And then we launched our online apparel shop.
Nice.
So that if you're not here to get your apparel, you can always go online and get your Paine College gear.
Set it up online for all the fans and alumni. Awesome. If you're still listening and you want to know more about Selina Kohn. Find us at thehbcupodcast.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also find out everything and links to all of the information that Selina Kohn has shared today in our show notes. So it'll link you right over to the apparel shop if you you're a Paineite and you feel like you want to get some apparel. If you want to know more about Selina Kohn and what's happening here at Paine College, we'll leave those links, and we'll also leave you information about all of the great organizations that she mentioned during her interview. Well, thank you so much for, speaking with me and, of course, just sharing all these gems of wisdom that you have today. Again, this is Women's History Month, so, of course, we just wanted to, speak to someone who I think has really made a mark, especially on athletics in general, but also HBCU athletics. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the HBCU podcast. We have so much more HBCU content on the way, so make sure you subscribe to the podcast, rate the podcast, and visit us at thehbcupodcast.com. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the HBCU Podcast. Like us on Facebook. We love you for listening. Until next time.